Didn't know what we would face, but the incredible and the beautiful thing about this was when I'd met with the police, they said to me, if you do this, we want to be safe, you need to have the safety restrictions and you need a mask. And I have kept all the rules as best as I can, and I know some of the people that protest with us will give me the finger and say, you know, you're capitulating to them, and I understand why they'd say that. But I want to last as long as I can, and I'm more useful out here. And I'm taking a big risk today to be here on the stage. But I wanted you to know, because this is the South Island and the North Island, we're together in this. There are many thousands, 100,000 over plus people in the North Island that are with you. And they are here today and they're cheering us on and they're watching and listening. So we started, and I want to thank the movement, our wives and our families, for allowing us to be freed up when I should have been travelling. I'm 63 now, I'm 64 soon, next month. And we've worked long and my wife deserved a holiday, but the feeling was strong and I had to do this. And so we made that stand, and then the police called me in to make this, and the police called me in and they said, we want you to be safe to do this and so we can prevent anything. And I said to them, well, we're just standing, I'm standing for the rights, the freedoms and the rights of this country and this people that have been taken, stolen, and literally destroyed by this government. And I said, it's my right to protest, and they all agreed. And they said, no, we just want to make sure it's safe. So I'm telling you this because at first the police's intention was to not charge me. And then when the cabinet minister was sent, they wanted to know, he was sent and said, they wanted to know, and I think she did, what I was up to. So he came into the room with the police commissioners and they said, are you going to go ahead with this? I said, absolutely. I said, you can be sure as day follows night that we are here and we're going to protest. We're going to stand. He said, okay, can we change your mind? Hello, I can smell a bribe coming. And they're good at it, as you know. They're bribing and buying and selling our people all through the country, particularly Māori, with all sorts of things. But I said, no, we're doing this. We're standing because it's not right. And you guys should know it. I said to the police and to this representative, I said, this is not right. And so he went back, and by the time the next day I was ready to go and make that stand, it was either make or break, I got a letter sent to me from the police that basically was saying, we will charge you and you'll be arrested. That was a sudden flip. Now this thing was political. It was a political conviction. Nothing to do with police. So they were breaking laws there. And you know what happened, the rest is history, you probably read about it. But when I stood that moment of that day, I didn't see, they asked me how many, 400 or 500, I said. That's what I believe will be there, 400 or 500 people. And what turned out was 2,500 people. And what I can tell you about that was that when I stood there, these people were mostly like you. People that would never have mixed with us, as Derek said, I would never have mixed with them. And they were there, and I knew we had to connect. So I gave them what I thought was the message of freedom, our rights, basically stuck with that and a few other things that I went into. And what happened was these people realised then that we were at the beginning of something that was going to change the course of our country. And I said that day that while this seems to be an incredible happening or an incident that would have never been even thought about, couldn't even be planned, it was right. And so I started to begin to say to them, then we'll do it on the 16th and the 30th and we'll follow through. And so that's what happened. Now the Freedom and Rights Coalition was just a name that I put up the front because I knew you fellows would have difficulty with me. And I wanted it to be broad-based as possible so that many people can be involved in it. I had made a relationship with some of the groundswell guys up in Auckland, the growers, and they were keen to stand as well. So when we stood, they were going to be involved, and he was going to speak. And his support was not accepted by the mainstream farmers, and they decided that they would not get involved again because of your reputation, Brian. And I said, okay, so this guy was clean until the day that he was going to speak, and it changed. He pulled out as well. So I had 3 speakers lined up, and they all pulled out at the last moment. I was all alone, and I was thinking, this is not the plan. And I didn't want that. I wanted as many different people as possible, but that's how it started. And I think that in starting it like that, there was something I could say to these police commissioners when I was in there, and I said, you don't want an Australia on your hands, do you? You don't want violence. And they said, no, that's what we don't want. And I said this, I'll make a promise to you guys, there will be no violence as long as I'm leading the Freedom and Rights Coalition and these protests. There'll be no violence. And the Deputy Commissioner looked at me with a like, who do you think you are? And I could sort of feel his thoughts very loud and clear. And I said, look, I'm not anybody, and we don't use thuggery, but I have a lot of good men. Some of them are in the police, some are involved in security. And so what we'll do in the best way possible is that we'll make sure that the element fringes do not cause any violence or do anything, and we can do that. So they were quite good about that. 7 to 8 protests down the road, there has not been a single act of violence in this country in the protests of New Zealand. I think that's awesome. The most successful protest to bring permanent change, and I've gone through, and boy, I've done some research on actual protest stuff. I don't do much on that, you guys are experts. I do it on how to actually get results. How these protests can get results. Not always just protesting, but we go in somewhere. And it says very clearly that peaceful, non-compliant mass gatherings are the best way to get permanent change with governments that gone rogue. It also said that over the history of protests that have been successful, and there have been many, I'm not just talking about the Gandhis, the Martin Luther King, or Mandelas, I'm talking about like the Philippines and many other places in South America and Europe where the people have risen up, have been unified, well planned, and when they reached the critical percentage of 3.6% of the total population, not one single protest movement ever lost what they wanted to achieve. They didn't lose when they reached that critical number of 3.6%. Now, apart from a few mathematicians that have worked that out, in New Zealand, that's 170,000 people. That's little. That's not a lot. And so that's why we've been building these protests. And when Derek was saying,